first? Who's up who? The guy up first. Who? The guy first base. Who? The guy first. Who is on first? What are you asking me for? I'm asking you.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this edition of Who's on First. I am Tim Ellerbrook. I'm with my good friend Brian Caplinger and with a new friend of ours, Michael Ramsey. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited too. Full disclosure, Michael Ramsey is a Cubs fan.
Boo.
Yeah, right.
Just
And he decided to come decked out in full Cubs gear, Cubs cup and everything. So he might be kicked out of here halfway through. You never know. I'm just kidding. But super excited. A couple things preliminary before we get started. Like I said, you can find us on Twitter at podcast at WOF, our podcast _WOF, and on YouTube at WOFBB Podcast. Make sure to follow us, comment on our stuff. We love to have conversations, especially on YouTube. If anybody that has takes of anything, if we suck, if the information that we have is not good, or tell us we should be better, pop it on there.
Yeah, give us your thoughts too. If you find some cool stat lines that you're seeing or projections, throw them our way. We're always looking for new stuff to talk about and chat about, so you can be a part of the show that way.
Absolutely. So the full disclosure, we're recording Sunday night. This is going to get released Monday morning. That means the season starts in 4 days. So Thursday, right?
Yeah.
We're going to take this entire episode. We kind of tease it what?
For most.
Yeah, for most.
Cubs technically already have 2 games under their belt.
Yeah,
still
they're in
don't
last
have a
place,
win.
by the way.
Cheap shot, I know.
It's a good day for
we
St.
spotted
Louis.
everybody 2 games.
Right, yeah. Somehow somebody's still, you're going to catch up really quickly anyway. Dang, now you got me blanking on, but we're going to do a full episode of predictions. We kind of tease it a little bit. We got a couple messages from different people who have some cool predictions out. So we're going to spend the whole time just breaking our thoughts down of the entire league, who's going to win playoffs, different, titles, and we're going to do some superlatives for some contending teams, so it'll be a lot of fun. We're going to start with the American League, so I'm going to throw it to you guys. Brian, I'm going to go with you first. Let's start with the AL East, and who is your division? What is your division stacking up?
Man, you're going to start me off right out of the get-go and make some people mad that I know are going to listen already. But the way my East is going to look, at least the way I think it will play out, it'll kind of be like this. I think Boston's going to take the title. I think Baltimore is going to end up sneaking up on some people. I know their pitching's a little rough right now, but I think they figure some things out. Injuries are going to plague the Yankees, so that's going to drop them to 3rd in my book. Mm-hmm. Toronto still can't figure out what they want to do with contracts, and so they're still going to kind of just fall off at the end. And then Tampa Bay, I think, is going to put a charge, but I think the big injury to their ace this past week in McClanahan, I think that's really going to hurt them, and so I think they're going to be down at the bottom, and that's kind of how it stacks up for me.
So let me go over this real quick. You said Boston, Baltimore, New York, Toronto, then Tampa Bay. That's pretty close for me. I don't know.
You're still thinking about it.
I am still thinking about it. I'm kind of torn, but Michael, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'm actually. I was a little surprised. I wasn't sure how everybody else was going to feel about Boston, but I've got Boston at 1 as well.
Yeah.
I have Toronto sliding in at 2nd there in the division.
Interesting. You got to explain that take a little bit.
So Vladdy's in a contract year this year.
Very true.
Bo Bichette's back, and he is hammering in spring training so far. So he's kind of got that protection
Spring
there.
training stats don't matter, though, dude.
True. But it means he's actually batting well and come the season hot, hopefully.
100%.
They did make a couple moves during the offseason, whereas some of the other teams kind of stood still.
Yeah.
I say Baltimore sliding in there at 3rd. I'm going to take Tampa ahead of New York because of some of the injuries New York has had and losing Soto late.
Really?
They missed out on a couple of big pieces out there. And the big piece, Garrett Cole's out for the year.
Right.
So, and I believe Luis Gil was hurt.
Yeah, he's not going to start the season. Clark Schmidt's going to be out to start the season.
It's going to be.
I forgot about that.
It could really put them in a hole early.
Absolutely.
And that division's not going to be easy to climb out of. So, that's kind of how I've got it.
Repeat them for one more time.
Yeah. So I've got Boston, Toronto, Baltimore.
Yeah.
I've got Tampa Bay they just seem to figure it out every year. Like every year I look at them like, that roster's not that great. And then somehow like they're always right there in the wild card hunt. Last year they were a selling team by far and they finished like a couple games out of the wild card. So
yeah, I feel like they're always a selling team.
Every year. And then, I guess the Yankees is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine. The only thing for me with the Yankees, and then Tim, I'll let you go, is they're not scared to buy.
They aren't.
Like, I feel like there'll come a point in the season where they'll just go, you know what, we're falling a little bit too far behind. We're going to sell everything we own as far as minor league system. We'll just ship our field and everything out maybe to Tampa Bay for all of their prospects and go from there.
So I think it's interesting how all of us said Boston's at first because Boston's my first place too. I have them pegged at, let me pull my superlatives super quick because I feel like the record's important. I have them in 95 and 67.
Wow.
Okay.
The reason being is, let me pull them up on my chart. They gained, the amount of WAR they gained by adding Crochet and Buehler. Just simply, I mean, WAR is not the most, the coolest stat in the world, but Crochet had 4.7 WAR last year. And Buehler, he didn't pitch for very long, but he had he was an even WAR, but he had we had 1 WAR in 22, but he had 5.6 WAR in 21. So like, say he has a season in the middle of 21 and 22, something in between, that's 3 WAR. So you're talking about almost 7 wins added from 2 pitchers, and they were a 500 team last year.
Well, and you're talking Stories coming back too,
right?
And that was the big piece for me that they didn't have.
You think he's going to stay healthy though?
We'll see. But I mean, if he's healthy, that dude hammers.
Yeah, and arguably, in my opinion, the reason why I put them there is, at least on the AL side, they had the best offseason.
Yeah.
Let's not even
100%.
joke. I mean, what they were able to do, even in late, adding Bregman, I think was huge for them. You talked about the pitching already. I mean, Garrett Crochet being there, Walker coming in, I think stabilizes, gives them that kind of veteran-esque presence that they need on the pitching side. And then they still got some young guys. I mean, you talk about Duran, you talk about, some of the young guys, Campbell coming up.
Well, it's hard to believe, but Rafael Devers really isn't that old,
right?
Like the dude's still just like entering his prime,
and he's been really good for a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, speaking of WAR, again, it's not the most end-all be-all stat, but Bregman's was worth 4 WAR last year,
right?
So they added 3 players that could be 3 to 4 WAR, 3 to 4 WAR plus.
Right.
So you're talking like 10 plus wins from adding 3 players.
Well, and, Devers wanted to talk about early in spring training, like, third base is my position, but facts are he's not a great third baseman.
No.
Yeah.
He's an unbelievable hitter. And I think he's going to start loving being a DH.
As long as he doesn't get fat.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that really makes me nervous. Like
in Boston, it doesn't matter though. Like I mean, and I'm not saying David Ortiz was fat, but he was on the bigger side. Like dude was a bigger guy.
Yeah.
He thrived at DH, and I agree. I think Devers can make a whole lot more money just being a DH than he can if he tries to do both. I understand the desire to want to play third, but dude, just wake up and say, hey, I'm going to DH and I'm going to go for it.
Hit.
In the past, I feel like those guys, the DH didn't get paid, but those guys are starting to get paid too. So, it's not a concern anymore.
Ohtani changed that.
Correct.
Right.
So, funny thing to think about, though, is Devers going to be as good if Garrett Cole isn't pitching this year. That's like guaranteed 10 home runs for the year.
That is true. That might hurt him a little bit. But, and 2 other guys, and then I'll stop talking about Boston and gushing over them a little bit here is...
I just want to point out, at the beginning of the season, I picked Boston before all these moves are made.
I think Casas and Connor Wong are going to have breakout years for them.
I agree on both of those.
I think the pressure being off of them with some of these other bats like Bregman and Devers, it's going to take the pressure off of them, and I think you're going to see a big step forward for both of those guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I actually picked the Yankees to be in second place, mostly because, let me finish and then I'll explain. So Boston Yankees is number 2 for me. Tampa Bay is number 3. Basically, because of what you said, Michael. They always figure it out. I did make this prediction before McClanahan, but we just found out it was a tricep thing. So the time frame on return, it's not an elbow or it's
right.
It's
So he will come back.
So he will come back sooner. Dude, they just always have the pitching to figure it out. Then I put Baltimore in fourth. And then Toronto is last. I see your take about Bichette and Vladdy. I just don't think it's gonna. I think they're gonna be gone at the deadline.
Well, that's highly possible too. Yeah, I mean, if they're not off to a hot start, I'd say that they're pretty much just gonna be tanking for that piece.
Yep.
Right, and I just don't see their pitching from the Toronto side.
Yeah.
Their
Except
starting
Gausman,
pitching holding up.
They just extended Kirk too, right?
Yeah, Alejandro Kirk, their catcher, they extended. Which,
They're
in my
apparently talking
opinion, they
about
had to
extensions
extend
with-
somebody at least to try and make some sort of headway with this.
I think I read a report they're talking about extending Gausman too. I picked the Yankees second, honestly, just because, I mean, Aaron Judge is a lock for top 3 MVP every year. I do predict he's going to have a fall off this year, mostly because he's not surrounded the same.
True.
Like last year, Soto was in front of him, and he was always on base for him to hit. I mean, he was the RBI leader last year. But, I mean, you can't sleep on Bellinger.
No.
True.
Goldschmidt, I mean, we're Cardinals fans. Goldie is a stellar player, and he's always going to figure it out.
And I thought this was the absolute best landing spot for
I
Goldie.
100% agree.
Yeah.
They got a short
Houston,
porch.
I think
out
would have
there.
been number 1, but second would have been the
Well,
Yankees.
and see, I say for Nato, yes, Houston would have been the number 1. Goldie, because he has power to the opposite field.
That's true.
That's why I think
that's a good point.
Houston would have been fine for him, but I think they got who they needed in Walker.
Agreed.
But Goldie hit where he needed to hit, and I think
Yeah.
he's going to have a tremendous bounce back
Well,
year.
and he has all that pressure off of him because here in
So
St.
true.
Louis the last couple of years, he
Right.
had to be that bat, him and Arenado, and it was just he just wasn't the same guy last
You're
year.
talking like you've seen Cardinals play lately.
I know. Well,
Come on now, man. I'm just kidding. I mean, if you think about the Yankees lineup, yeah, their pitching has gotten decimated. Will Warren, I think, is going to step up like a little bit. I do think Fried is going to be on and off the IL in little bitty stints. Rodon's going to be So I think their pitching is going to be meh.
Well, now they got to lean on Stroman with all that hurt, like all the.
But their defense is getting better, so he probably is going to get better. You would know this, Michael. He's a ground ball pitcher.
he is. Yeah,
And-
he rocked with the Cubs a couple years ago when they had Gold Glovers all over the
Exactly.
field. So
I think what Goldie means to the infield in Yankee Stadium, or even in that lineup in that infield. So I just think it's going to be kind of the Texas scenario, which I'll explain in the later when we go to the West. I just think their lineup's going to outpace the pitching problems that they have.
it's possible.
It maybe. I look at this lineup for the Yankees, and it screams to me Cardinals lineup.
Yeah. 5 years ago, this
We don't have
roster
an Aaron
would have
Judge,
been
though.
You're right. I mean, obviously the outliers him, but when you look at, they have no true leadoff.
Yeah.
They're always going to be shuffling that.
Wells, their catcher is projected to
Right.
lead off.
And outside of Judge, I mean, Bellinger, could he have a tremendous bounce back? Absolutely. I mean, especially short porch again. You're talking about that place for a left-handed power bat. It could help him home run wise. I don't know that his swing is still there. Again, Goldie's going to help him on the
Bellinger?
infield. Chisholm,
Yeah.
hit or miss.
Wild card.
Right. You
I'm
just
really
don't
surprised
know.
they're not having Chisholm lead off just because he's fast.
He'd be the piece I would, and
Yeah.
I would throw him
Right.
out there and have him bunt like 90% of the time.
Yeah. I don't know. Someone predicted a sneaky 30-30 season from him, and I was like,
Interesting.
For Chisholm?
yeah, for Chisholm. And I'm like,
I mean-
I could kind of see it. I mean, short
Right.
porch.
Right.
That's it's the extreme high or extreme
Yeah.
low with him.
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
It's like one of
right?
those, I wouldn't say no to it. I don't think I would predict it, but I'm like, oh, yeah, I could totally see it. So, yeah, again, mine's Boston, New York, the Rays, Baltimore, and Toronto. I just think Baltimore is going to fall off, man.
They did not replace Burns. You
Yeah.
know, the fact that Kyle Gibson is the piece probably, and it's like,
And-
don't get me wrong, I liked Gibson early on last
I did
year
too.
for the Cardinals. He was really pitching well, but he kind of struggled down the stretch. But losing a guy like Corbin Burns really hurts.
As someone who would rather have Gibson than 3 of our pitchers
Yeah.
right now, I
That's
would
fair.
take him, and I think he's awesome. He's not an ace. But they just don't have any veteran. And I mean, that's a hot topic from the Cardinals. We got to have veterans on the bench and everything. I do think it's valuable, but I don't know. They haven't hit in the postseason at all.
Right. And I think there's something about this young core that I buy into. Like, we talk about here in St. Louis, let the young guys play. Mm-hmm. Baltimore's doing that. Yeah. And I think it's going to pay dividends this year because I think they have found a way. And again, not that I was the biggest Ton fan, but Tyler O'Neill going to Baltimore, them moving the left field fence back in.
I forgot about that piece.
Like, that's huge for them as far as that big power presence in the lineup. Adley Rutschman still hasn't really hit that stride in prime that he's at. You're talking about Jackson Holiday, who bulked up a little bit in the offseason, started to see some pop off of his bat. And, like, there are just guys in this lineup. Like, last year, I think they did fall off. They had their struggles, but they got to play. Yeah. And now they know how to adjust. And that's why I'm leaning there. Again, pitching could be a tremendous problem for them. I'm not going to, ignore that fact. But some of this, they're taking some flyers. I mean, Eflin, Morton, And
Morton's been pretty consistent down there in Atlanta. Like, he's not your guy you want as your number one, but he's definitely a guy you're totally serviceable at a 4 or 5.
Right.
But that's the thing for me. And I mean, I say this as a Cardinals fan who's got like 3 number 5s in the rotation. There's a lot of number 4 and 5s, and they're all really good pitchers for that slot. Who's starting game 1 in a wild card for them?
I think they've got to figure that out. Obviously, I think some deadline moves will have to be made for them, but I think early in the season, they're going to depend on their bullpen. Yeah. And my superlative for Boston is they're going to have, or not Boston, Baltimore, they're going to have the best bullpen in the AL.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, that is the thing that keeps them like,
right.
Well, the bullpen is disgusting.
Yep.
100%. I just realized this, but Gunnar Henderson's starting on the IL.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that came out I think earlier.
So
that's going to be a big,
that puts Holiday at shortstop.
Yep.
So I don't know, dude. I don't see them putting it all together. Great manager of the year candidate for sure every year, but they're not putting. The GM's not bringing the pitching that they need for those games. Like Corbin Burns was there last year, great ace. Didn't get past the first round again.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's move to the West. So this is my favorite. Well, I like the East and the West. So Brian, show me your West division for the AL West.
Yeah, no surprise here. I've been high on them all year. They're off season. I'm going to have Houston at number 1. I don't think anybody unseeds them quite yet. I think Texas is still going to be there. They'll be number 2. Seattle dropping in that 3rd spot. The Angels, and then as much as I have a pull for the Athletics just to have like a crazy year because they're not even really playing in a major league ballpark, I think that's going to weigh on them in the end. Yeah. I think they're going to start hot.
Yep.
But I think they're going to fall off pretty quickly.
They're screaming Pirates from the last couple of years. Where just go on a 2-week stretch. We're like, whoa, watch out for the A's.
Yeah, right. Well, like in 23 when the Pirates started off like one of the best teams in baseball. So repeat yours one more time.
Houston, Texas, Seattle, the Angels, and then the Athletics.
Ooh, interesting. Michael, what do you got?
Yeah, until someone figures it out, I can't go against Houston. I'm going to go with Houston. I've got Seattle rocking at 2, but them and Texas are pretty close. I love Corey Seager, so at some point I may say, oh no, Texas is number 2 in that. And then I'm going to go A's above Angels. The Angels do have some pieces that I really love kind of coming up. And they've got a really solid coach out there that when it comes time, he's probably going to be retired when they're really hitting their stride, but he's got a good coach to develop all these guys.
Take him 10 years to get there.
Yeah, 100%. But the A's are a team I think, could make a bit of a splash this year for short part of the season. They're not going to do anything crazy, but it's got to be Houston for me.
So you picked this. Can you explain Seattle over Texas?
Julio Rodriguez. That he's unbelievably talented. I just think he can carry the offensive weight to go along with their pitching is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, they're basically the exact opposite of Baltimore. Like, they have one really great offensive player, and then their pitching is just unbelievable. And then,
bullpen's
vice
fantastic
versa.
too.
So, that's, like I said, I could roll with Texas too.
Okay.
Evaldi's a guy I kind of worry about from time to time. He's a really solid pitcher for a good stretch, and then there's stretches where it's like everybody's hammering him.
Yeah. I really wanted Evaldi in St. Louis the last like 2 or 3 years.
Fair.
I wanted to trade for him, and then I wanted to sign him this past year. He's like the most gamer postseason pitcher. Yeah. Like, if we're going to any playoff game, he's starting game 1 for me. No matter what, he could have a 6 ERA in the regular season. It's just like that dog type deal for me. So I'm gonna throw wild. So Texas is winning the division for me handily.
No surprise.
Well, I know, no surprise. Houston is number 2 for me, and I really, really struggled with this, but I was torn for 3 and 4. I was torn between the A's and Seattle, because I looked in 2 different ways. Is like, dude, Seattle could fall off really bad, like really quickly.
They could be sellers for sure.
100%. And because if Julio doesn't hit and Raleigh doesn't hit, like, what do they got? Yeah, they have the best pitching in the AL, but like, if they don't hit, team's not winning.
Yeah, you don't want to be rolling with J.P. Crawford as like your probably 3rd best bat. Like, that's rough.
And the A's, I don't know, dude, they're kind of sneaky. Like, oh man, they're close. They played 500 ball for like 3 months. Now, I mean, that's not the most legendary thing of like a winning postseason team. I just think I'm a big Lawrence Butler fan.
Fair.
Yeah, he's good.
I love his attitude, the Riz, as the kids say.
Can't forget about Brent Rooker.
Yeah,
I mean,
he
dude's
had
a baller.
Underrated season last year.
And I just think the park that they're playing in, it's smaller. You never know what that's gonna do for their, the stats and the win record for them.
I just think it wears on you after a while as a player when you're in a minor league ballpark, but you have to keep the major league mindset.
Yeah.
The piece for me is interesting is you take Tampa Bay, and they're going to be in a minor league ballpark too. Like, they're probably going to have more fans there this year than they've ever had.
Yeah. I mean, we got to play there this year. The Cardinals are on the schedule to go to, I guess it's not Tampa, it's Steinbrenner or whatever. But I ended up putting Seattle in 3rd. And I think basically what you said, I think Julio is going to have a really good year again. Yep. And I think Raleigh's going to have a really good year. And they've got like some mid pieces. Crawford could have an average season, and that's a win.
Yep.
Because their pitching's so good. So yeah, I put them in 3rd. The A's 4th, and the Angels 5th. I really want to believe the Angels because, like Michael said, I'm a big Ron Washington fan. I'm really, really paying attention to if Brian's boy Trout stays for 150 games. I don't know if, dude, right field it's different for sure, but like, he could run on a ball, step on a sprinkler like Walker did, and just he's out for 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested. I like what the Angels did. I don't think they addressed a whole lot on the pitching side as well as they probably should have, as far as to compete in the West.
Yeah.
But some of the offensive pieces they added, I think, will help them. And I think, as far as that 3rd place spot, them and the Seattle are going to kind of be neck and neck for me in that run.
The Angels in Seattle?
Yeah. And then I think the Athletics start hot. Like, I really do. Like, I like the team. They're another young team. I think they're going to hit their stride at the right time when they hit Vegas.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the perfect scenario for them.
Yep.
So that's, for me, that's here nor there. I mean, we're talking 3rd and 4th place in a division here. Nobody's really happy about that.
Yeah. I just think those 3 teams, and I really, really struggle with this because I have Seattle making the playoffs in my bracket, but no one's catching up to Texas and Houston. They're both 2 good, completive teams for different reasons. I feel like Houston's overall probably a little more rounded, but the offense in Texas just far outweighs and exceeds any of the teams. However, the pitching in Texas is not, or Houston's pitching outweighs, and bullpen outweighs Texas for sure. But I just feel like they literally won in 23 by outslugging everybody.
True.
I'm a big Seager fan, one of my favorite players. So
I'm not going to argue with you about Texas's offense. Again, I think they've done a great job of assembling an offensive juggernaut team.
Yeah.
But I think, and this is where a little bit, not a homer, but just maybe a little bit of bias for Houston comes out. I think the simple fact of adding Walker and adding Paredes, who is a pull hitter, both of those guys to that ballpark, it pained me to watch Tucker leave.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, at least from spring, and again, spring doesn't mean it is what it is.
Yeah.
But it could look like they won that deal because Chicago only gets Tucker for a year and he signs somewhere else.
Yep.
And they look like they have a stud in Cam Smith right
Absolutely.
now.
Oh, I don't disagree at all. I just think, okay, let's compare it. Just like quick 2 minutes. So Texas's lineup is Simeon, Seager, Langford, Jock Peterson, who is the sneakiest left-handed bat pickup of all time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Adolis Garcia, which looks like he's
dude's an alien.
Yeah.
Let's just say it. He just
he's huge.
Megamind.
Yeah.
That's his
exactly,
new name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have you
That's
seen
his
that
new
meme?
name.
Yeah.
Or new nickname.
Have you seen that meme? Mike?
Oh, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Josh Young, 110 OPS plus ish guy.
Yep.
Great third baseman. Evan Carter was stellar in that postseason run.
True.
Injured last year, kind of fell off, so you don't know what he's going to be. Jake Berger is a sneaky left hand. You proved that to me.
I did prove that one. I think that's probably the best individual pickup for a team right there. Berger's a good dude. And it's not just because he's from St. Louis. He's a good dude.
Yeah. And then Heim was really good in 23. Not great last year. Don't know what he's going to be. And then Houston. Let's go with the
do
lineup.
it.
Altuve, Paredes, Alvarez.
I'm okay with that. Alvarez is an absolute stud.
Oh, dude.
Walker behind him
Yeah.
provides so much protection.
I am not
100%.
denying Alvarez at all.
Yeah.
One of the best left-handed, especially postseason bats of all time.
Yeah.
Diaz,
Offensive catcher.
Yep.
offensive catcher. Not bad behind the dish, but like average.
If Pena continues on his tear from spring,
Stellar
dude looks
spring.
like a stud.
True.
Cam Smith, which I'm going to give it to you.
Right.
We don't know what he is, though, because he could have
He could fall off the map coming in.
he could have the same thing as Langford last year.
right.
Had the most amazing spring and then couldn't hit until September.
Sure.
But I'm pretty high on him.
Right.
But I'm also cautious, like, rookies when they come up right now.
Yeah, I don't have him as rookie of the year. Like, I think he will cool off.
Yeah.
But
Dubon and Myers, which
I don't think Dubon's going to actually start. I think that's going to end up being Brendan Rodgers, who they acquired from Colorado.
Yeah.
I think he plays second base for them. He's not going to be this offensive juggernaut for them, but I think he's a better offensive player than Dubon is.
So
I think
you're just swapping Dubon
goes
and
back
Rodgers.
to that rotation role where he's going to give guys a day off in the outfield and the infield.
So you're settling the debate, Michael. Who has the better lineup?
I'm gonna go with Houston because of Yordan Alvarez.
That's right.
That man is different because you're a big stat guy.
Yes.
That guy bats over 300 off of both sides.
Right.
It's
Right.
ridiculous. That
Seager,
and
though,
like
bro.
you said, he's clutch.
Right.
Seager, so is Seager, bro.
Seager, trust me, I love Seager too. I'm right there
Comparison,
with you.
Bruh.
Jordan's entering that stretch of where this is going to be his thriving. This is his stretch run to really prove who he is.
So
right
the
now.
only downside for Houston, and this could be something, it could be nothing. They have one individual left-handed hitter in that entire lineup.
Oh, I agree. That
Everybody's a righty.
100%.
Right.
So, I mean, you're right. Alvarez has great splits. Walker is okay splits. Paredes
Altuve's pretty good at splits. I mean,
Diaz, Pena, Dubon.
right.
Well, I guess that's not
and that's
too
going to be their biggest hang up. There's no doubt about it.
They're
I
only
think,
going to see righty relievers.
right. And I think they're going to need to address that, especially come deadline time. They're going to have to find that big lefty bat that either goes into the lineup or will be that pinch hitter.
Yeah, because Singleton's not even projected on the roster. I don't know if it's complete yet or if it's announced. But
I haven't seen anything.
The only
about
other
it.
lefty they have is Carantini.
Well, and then they've
Hummel.
Hummel is a switch as well. And again, we're just throwing some things out there at that point.
Yeah,
but,
for sure. So that's the only thing that gives me pause. But I mean, we both have a bias,
Right.
so
Oh yeah.
And at the end of the day, to me, and this is just me again, a little bit of a bias, I think they're just the best overall team.
Yeah.
I think when you look at their starting pitching, you look at their bullpen, and you look at their lineup, they're the best team in this division.
I would agree.
okay. If health wasn't an issue, who has the better rotation?
I would give it to Texas,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but a bullpen
fair.
I give to Houston.
Yeah,
And the
100%.
lineup I give to Houston. And so for me, that's where it puts them over the top. I know you would sway the lineup towards Texas, and that's why it puts Texas at the top.
Yeah,
to
I
you.
mean that's just what they do. Like,
Right.
They spend all their money on slugging, and it worked.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, literally, they won.
Well,
That's
the
how
big
they
piece
won.
is you got to keep Seager healthy. If Seager's not healthy, Texas is not going anywhere.
Yeah,
And the loss of some of the pitchers, DeGrom has to stay healthy this
Yes.
year.
yeah,
And we have seen that is basically not possible.
No.
yeah. I'm picking this year is the year that he does, but I think he goes on the IL, but not
Right.
knocking him out.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're talking about war, a cumulative war, again, have your opinions of war. Texas has more war in their lineup and
Sure,
more war in their rotation.
Yeah.
But it's projected war.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, we're done talking about our favorite.
We'll
team.
argue
Yeah,
too
West.
much on that
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Let's move to the Central. So Brian, hit me with your.
All right, here
picks.
you go. I got Detroit, then Kansas City, Cleveland, Minnesota falling off because of injuries, in my opinion. And then the White Sox still haven't figured anything out. So they're just going to be content with hanging out in the basement.
Dude, we have the same exact pick for the Central. That's crazy, Michael.
Yeah, I'm gonna start off with last place. Just a little prod at the White Sox because Chicago rivalry. So yeah, White Sox are gonna by far be the worst team in baseball again this year. But they do have some young pieces coming along, but they're
not there
several
yet.
years
Right.
away.
Yeah.
I have Cleveland winning it. Got a couple of pitchers coming back.
Absolutely.
That are big pieces, and they're exactly like Tampa Bay. Like they just churn out pitchers like crazy. It's unbelievable. Jose Ramirez is one of my favorite dudes.
Dude's a stud. I love
just
him.
every year.
J Ram's a beast.
I just feel bad for him
he
because I feel like
quietly
he's the
almost
only
had a
one on
40-40
that
season.
team.
I know.
How is it quietly too?
And yeah, so I'm gonna go with them. I think I have. Yeah, that's what I thought. I have Kansas City too. Bobby Witt is unbelievable. And they've got a good young roster. If Jack Caglione, if that dude actually gets up and stays up, that guy is going to be
He's
special.
going to be good. I think Pasquantino has a big year for him as well this year.
100% agree.
He's got to stay healthy.
100%. I have the Tigers. They have a lot of great pieces around. I mean, we saw that last year. Skubal, I think, comes back again this year. Just unbelievable, lights out. Minnesota's right there. I think we're going to see a whole lot of what we did last year from this division.
Right.
Yeah.
Up and down, switcheroos all
Great.
season.
You've got great coaching. You have great pitching with
And all
some
four
some
of those
stars
teams.
here and there.
Right.
So you've got four teams that are probably playoff contenders, serious
Absolutely.
playoff contenders, and then you have the White Sox, which help feed their records. So
Right.
That's what
I really see both the Centrals, and I know we'll get to the NL, kind of in the same spot. I think every team is going to be super close and legitimately have a shot at the division outside of maybe 2 to 3 weeks to go in the season.
Yeah. I had the White Sox winning the division.
You're full of it. I know that one.
No, I actually have Detroit winning the division.
Sure.
Then Kansas City, then Cleveland, then Minnesota. I really, really wanted to pick Minnesota because I actually like their team as a whole.
I do too.
But man,
They can't stay healthy.
Yeah, just health is such a problem. Like, it's just crazy. I really had a hard time with the top three: Detroit, Kansas City, and Cleveland. I think you guys are right. I think it's going to be like a game apart for all of them all season, which is a really fun
Absolutely.
thing of
It was a
baseball
ton
to
of fun
watch.
last year.
I just think Detroit has really the X factor for me for Detroit is the management.
I agree 100%.
Won a World Series with Houston, what he did last year. They sold at the deadline, then got better.
Right.
Imagine if they kept Flaherty that whole time.
Yep.
They would have had a better shot. They almost beat Cleveland in the DS, so they overachieved, and I think they have the best bullpen in the division.
Yep.
Scooball's won the Cy Young contender again this year. Flaherty. Then they have who's the rookie?
Josh Jobe.
Jackson Jobe.
Jackson
Jobe,
Jobe, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Dude, Jackson Jobe could be another ace as well. So they have 1A, 1B, 1C.
Absolutely.
Top 3.
Parker Meadows also. Watch out for that guy. He's
Yeah.
a
Dude,
special
true.
player.
Yeah, and I think Torkelson figures something out this year. I know he struggled the last couple, but I think he figures it out. And again, you can't sleep on players like Kerry Carpenter. He's not going to be a household name.
Yeah.
Colt Keith, I think, is big for them
Sweeney?
again.
You're talking me into the Tigers in my one slot now.
Right. Like, I mean,
Well, that's the thing. Like, this could be a half a game apart.
Absolutely.
Or a game
right.
apart.
And that's the big thing for me because that's those top 3. I think are going to go back and forth. I mean, like you said, I think they're just going to fight each other tooth and nail. And when I first put my list, I had Kansas City, and then it was like no, and then I moved Cleveland, and I was like no, and then finally I just settled, and I was like, okay, I'm here, and this is why.
Yeah.
This division reminds me so much of 2015 with the Central Division and the NL with the Cardinals, Pirates, and Cubs. Just like you've got 3 very, very solid teams that are going to finish right around 100 wins, and it's just going to be fun all year long.
Right.
What a time to be alive. I miss those times. I really had a hard time because I like Kansas City's makeup a lot. Lugo is one of my favorite pitchers.
Yeah.
Reagan's came out of nowhere, and he's an ace all of a sudden when they got him from Texas. That's what I hope Matan does for the Cardinals. Flips you, and you get a random, lottery ticket, and all of a sudden you get an ace out of it.
Sure.
I mean, the percentage chance of that happens obviously low, but you never know. But man, I think Detroit just edges them out slightly.
Right. And I just worry about the bottom half of their lineup in Kansas City. Like that's the only real hang up for me. I think Bobby Witt's a stud. I have him, in one of my next points when we get to some of the superlative side of things. I have him there. Salvi is just Salvi. He's lost a little bit, but he's clutch as clutch can be. And so I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, I think Vinny is going to have a big year this year for him, and it's going to be much needed. Yeah. And you even said it. I mean, if Caglione can come up after what you saw in a brief stint for spring, and he does anything remotely to that, it's just going to be a shot in the arm for this club.
It's average is what it is, but I want to say he batted 500 in spring training over like 9 games.
And that's hard to do.
India?
Home runs.
No, Caglione.
Oh, Caglione, yeah.
India's a good sneaky pickup for them. I like him at the top of the lineup.
Kind of the same thing for Torres with Detroit, though.
Right. And that's why to me, once you get past that 5th spot in the lineup, you just don't know what you're going to get.
A lot of questions.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, once Perez is over. Hunter Renfro's like fine, having an average, having those average hitters.
Right. And he's not bad. Like, I don't want to, but he's on the downside.
True.
I mean, he's on his way out. I mean, he's still a great ball player. He's a gamer. He's going to give you everything he's got.
Yeah.
But
he may be that piece at the deadline, though, that you can move that helps bring in something else.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. It's really, really hard, but I think Kansas City and Cleveland for me are almost tied. But everybody's within a half game, so it's really, really hard to predict. So I feel bad as this is someone having takes, but they could be first, second, third, all flipped around.
Right.
Which again is a really fun baseball to watch if you're a fan. So let's do big superlatives really quick. So MVP, Cy Young, rookie, and Triple Crown. Brian, you go first.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit it for me. As far as MVP, I have Yordan Alvarez. I think he has it this year.
Love it.
I think he breaks out in a big way. I know he's on the IL right now. Cy Young, I think, is actually going to come out of Seattle, and George Kirby is going to take that one. Batting title, I'm going to give to Bobby Witt. I think he comes out, has another big year.
Yep.
Triple Crown, I said Alvarez will be in it, but I just don't see him being able to get it. That's such a hard thing to do on the hitter side of things, and I think the same thing for pitchers. There is a pitching triple crown, but I just don't see it coming. For me, and this is what I think put me over the top, for Detroit, my rookie of the year is going to be Jackson Jobe. I think he steps up and kind of what he did.
That is also my rookie of the year
really?
pick. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Dang.
So, and then manager for me, I think ultimately is going to go to Alex Cora because I think Boston's going to have the best overall record in the AL, and he's going to win manager of the year.
Yeah. Okay, so MVP is Alvarez. Cy Young is who?
Kirby.
George Kirby. Gotcha. And batting title was Witt. Rookie of the year was
Jackson Jobe. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting, Michael.
Yeah, my MVP is actually Vladdy Jr.
Okay.
I
Whoa.
love Vladdy. I think that guy is, as hard as it is to believe, I think he's a little underrated for how good he actually is. Just because I think Toronto's been a little slept on the last couple of years. As hard as that is to believe. But coming into a contract year, I think this is going to be a huge year for him. I think the last couple of years, a couple guys have bet on themselves, and it's really paid off big. And I think he's one of those guys that's going to come through in the clutch.
Yeah.
I had a couple other guys jotted down as potential watch out. Jordan was top of that list. Ramirez is always in my top 5. Bobby Witt, of course, and then Rafi Devers. I said keep an eye on him as well, because you could see him go for 50 home runs this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he's betting DH every day. So
imagine if he played in Yankee Stadium.
Oh my gosh,
it'd be great. Well, so here, hot take.
Yeah,
and I'll just spit this one out here. I actually envision Guerrero Jr. playing for the Yankees at third base after the deadline.
I do too.
Totally see that, and I hate that.
I mean,
me too. Like, there's nothing.
It's going to be them and the Mets,
right?
When time
absolutely.
comes
And you think
year.
about it. I mean, they're going to have to make some sort of big splash, and just to appease their fans, if nothing else. Is like we went after it,
Right.
So, for Cy Young, I'm giving it to Skubal again. I mean, that guy's pitched lights out the last couple of years, and everything I've seen so far. I mean, he's got his stuff. So, I'm going to give him there. Rookie of the year, I also had Jackson Jobe, with the caveat that if Jack Caglione can come up early, I think he takes the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I didn't vote for him, is I just don't think he's going to get enough of an opportunity to get that consideration.
I agree. Everything I was seeing was Jason Dominguez was kind of the guy a lot of people were hitting on, but to me, it's probably Jobe.
Yeah.
It's probably Jobe. Manager of the year, I had Cora as well, but AJ Hinch, I'll never count him out. He's an unbelievable manager with just what he did with that young team last year. And
I mean, it's what he did with Houston. They were all young.
Correct.
Too.
Right. And then that they could very well go on that same trend. I think that this Tigers team kind of built very similar. So
100%.
And then batting title, I had Bobby Witt as well. That guy's just going to be a dude.
Yeah, I think he's going to be back at the same spot, almost hitting 330.
Yep.
I mean, that's just...
I have him swiping at least 45 bags this year.
Dude, he's just the best probably the best 5-tool player in the league.
Very
close, but not
very close. Yeah,
average. He's always been on average. Did you guys forget that Aaron Judge exists in the AL or something?
No, I just think that he's gonna be in contention. Like I think he's gonna be part of the conversation 100%.
Yeah.
I just agree to your point. I think there's gonna be a little bit of a regression, and what that looks like for Aaron Judge, I would still take on any major league team, right? But I just think that the year that for me that Alvarez is gonna produce, I think it just puts him over the top this year.
Yeah. So I have Bobby Witt winning the MVP.
I don't think anybody's going to argue any of these.
Also, the Triple Crown.
Okay.
I just don't see the home runs.
I know.
Home runs is tough.
I mean, didn't he have a 40-40 season last year?
No.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Wait. How many home runs did he get? I have it pulled up right here. Nobody didn't have somebody else. Anyway, I just think it is more
32.
Okay. So I just think Aaron Judge is not going to be as good as last. Still going to be good. And their home run count is going to be within 1 or 2 of each other. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't have anybody surrounding him that protects him the same. Bobby Witt had a 10.4 WAR season last year.
Unreal.
That's insane.
Right.
Insane.
Unreal.
And he doesn't have the protection that any of those other players do.
Yeah.
If you think about it. So I don't know, and I think that's a little wishful thinking because I want to see a Triple Crown winner again. Because the last one was the guy in Detroit. I'm blanking on his name.
Miggy.
Yeah. That was a long time ago.
That
I mean,
was-
obviously, it's a hard thing to do.
Right.
Goldie almost won it in 22.
I want to say Miggy about did it back-to-back years.
He did. It was very close.
Unreal.
I mean,
Yeah.
but that's an unreal talented bat right there.
100%.
I mean, you're talking.
at
That's
the
a Hall
time
of
for
Famer.
sure.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But I don't know, man. He could fall off just as much, but if he gets close to 40, he is lights out in spring right now. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my pick. My secondary pick was Judge. Because he could keep doing the same thing over and over.
I just think you're going to have at least 45 home runs to be in consideration for the Triple Crown. And I just don't see that off the bat of Bobby Witt. Not because he's not a good bat. I think he just takes more pride in line drive, gap to gap shots.
Those could
that's
turn
why
into
his
home runs, though, dude.
Sure, but that's why his average is going to be up there because he doesn't want to swing and miss as much.
Yeah.
I didn't have Judge in that top 5 because I think he's going to be graded a little harder this year because of how good he was last year.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be one of those things, like, even if it's fair or not, like, he doesn't have that protection, like you said. But, if he doesn't go put up 65 home runs this year, like,
he's not going to
be
be
like, he's not the MVP.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, true. That's a good point. I don't know. I think Witt edges him out. I want Witt to edge him out just a little bit.
Sure.
My Cy Young pick was I really, really wanted Crochet to win it. And I think he has a legit shot. I just think innings is the thing that's going to limit him. So for me, it's between Scooball and Crochet. And I think Crochet is the better talented pitcher. But he's held back because Tommy John 2 years ago, first season starting last year, he was the strikeout leader last year in 146 innings.
Sure.
Or 140, whatever. But I think Scooball probably outperforms just because of the innings.
Yeah.
But I think the next year in 26, if Crochet is on the path, I think he's another Cy Young contender. And then Rookie of the Year, it was a toss between Roman Anthony and Jackson Jobe for me. Roman Anthony's obviously not slated to be on the roster yet.
Yeah.
Right.
So it really depends on how quickly he comes up.
Sure.
And he could turn into a Wyatt Langford season when he comes up and have the that fallout. Can't adjust to pitching right away because I mean it's tough. The big leagues are tough, man.
Turns out.
So it's a tough pick for me, but I think I'd probably pick Jackson Jobe as well. I didn't do managers of the year, but they're probably all really awesome. I think that's it. Do you guys want to do playoff brackets for the AL super quick?
Yeah, I can run it real quick, and I'll kind of give you a little bit of why in like a sentence, not even run it down. So for me, I think the number one over team is going to be Boston, and I slated it because I think they're going to have the best ERA. I think overall ERA for their team. Houston slots in at 2 for me. I think they're going to have the best scoring team as far as runs wise. Detroit at 3, division winners. I have Texas at 4. I still think they're going to be the number one offense in the AL. Baltimore at 5, Kansas City at 6 for me.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like
wow.
that.
Okay.
I like that.
Good
So I also have Boston at 1. I think they probably have the most talented roster in the AL right now.
And farm system.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see that all kind of play out this year. I have Cleveland at 2.
Whoa.
Houston as my 3. Little surprise here. I have Toronto slotted for that first wild card spot because I do see a fall off from a couple of these teams in the AL East.
Yeah.
Obviously, that may not pan out. Tampa obviously could be right there. Yankees might actually be right there. So that could be a problem. And then I've got Kansas City edging out the Tigers for the 5th, and then the Tigers taking the 6th. So once again, I have 3 Central teams taking it.
Yeah, and I went 2-2-2.
Yeah.
Fair.
I did 3, 1, and 2. So Boston is my number 1, and Texas is my number 2, but they are tied. They have a tied record.
I like that.
Okay.
So I don't know how that would be decided.
It's it all comes down to
Home run derby.
tiebreakers,
Yeah.
all that fun stuff.
Well,
so.
I mean, 1 seed, 2 seed.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 different division seeds. So.
Well, it'll come down to head-to-head matchups, all of that stuff.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah.
So then my 3 seed was just Detroit, and they're the only one in the Central making it.
Wow.
Not because they're not competitive, but because the other teams have better records. So then my 3 is actually Houston. My 4 is, I guess it's, no, I'm sorry. Houston is my 4. 5 and 6 are tied, and it's the Yankees and Seattle.
Okay.
And then I think this is a little bit wishful thinking and fandom, but the NLDSs are going to be Houston and Texas, and New York and Boston. Yeah, ALDSs. Sorry, Houston and Texas.
Don't want to confuse our fans.
Yeah, right. Houston and Texas in one DS, and the other would be Yankees and Boston.
That's the fandom in you. I know that.
100%.
It would be fun
100%.
to see. I just don't see it playing out.
Also the wish of every TV network out there.
Right, absolutely. Right.
Or, I mean, they'd probably rather see Yankees and Boston in the CS.
True.
Right.
Although Texas and Houston in 23 CS was
That was lit.
great
It was.
TV.
Right.
Great
It was.
TV.